Speaking of that,
Okay. I like
welcome to
this.
Sound Off. I'm your host, John Blaschke. We're here on Soundview TV, and don't forget, this is your platform for free speech. I'm here today with the Democratic hopeful for the Stratford Mayor, Immaculate Can. We're going to be interviewing her for about 15 minutes, and after the 15-minute mark, it's going to be free call-in for any questions that you might have for her. Immaculate, thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you. Would you mind start off by telling me a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm from Haiti. I was born in Haiti. I've lived here in the United States almost my entire life. I came here to the U.S. as a baby. I lost my mom at a very young age. And I've lived here in Stratford for about 30 years. I have 4 children. I have 5 grandchildren. And if you say that I look like I'm 40, you're going to become my new best friend today. And I love Stratford. And my husband, Greg, lives here in Stratford with me, and it's been wonderful. I am a nurse. I have my doctorate degree in nursing, and I'm very involved in my community.
And what has your life been like since living in Stratford? How has it changed at all?
Well, I'm very involved. I've sat on numerous boards and commission. When it comes to being involved in your community, that is something that was ingrained in me, growing up. So at a very young age, my family were very engaging in community service. So life in Stratford here has also translate to me being very involved, and it's been wonderful. There's been challenges, but life is not without challenges. We all go through them. The important thing is that we get through the trials, the tribulations, and all the challenges that we experience in life, and hopefully that would make us much more resilient, and that's what it is.
What sort of trials and tribulations would you like to perhaps correct or rectify?
My specialty is psychiatric nursing, and I'm a very spiritual person. And I believe that we go through trials and tribulations. That's part of our mission in life. So that's the spirituality part of it. And the idea is that we're going to learn, through these trials and tribulations, and we should welcome it sometimes, because it's really what's molding us and making us a better person. And for us to say, all right, I went through, this issue. It doesn't define who I am, but I can learn from it and I can utilize it to do better. So, one trial and tribulation in my life that I have gone through is I got married at a very young age. And at 17, getting married, having my first child at 18, it wasn't a very healthy marriage. There was domestic violence involved, which was very hard at the time. But what I've done with that is that I see myself as a victor, so it's victory, it's conquering.
Something you overcame.
Absolutely.
Overcoming adversity.
Yeah, and so these are all the adversities that we go through in life, but what I've done is help other individuals, particularly women, who are in that particular situation, and hopefully through my story, help them become stronger and give them faith that they too, can walk away from certain challenges that they experience of domestic violences in their life and use it for their good.
So you'd say that your experience in psychology has greatly impacted the way that you not only view the world, but have you put it on your platform at all?
Well, I talk about it a lot, and part of my platform is diversity, right? We live in a world we're very diverse, and diversity could mean based on race, it could be age, It could be your economic level, background, diversity of ideas. And it's funny you said that, because one person said to me today, I post on Facebook every day, in terms of what's going on with my campaign. I'm running for mayor in Stratford. And one person said, how do you do it that you get these unbelievable questions that would make me go crazy, but you handle it in such a way that you don't let it get to you. And this is where you look at things very objectively and not take things personal, because we should welcome ideas, right? We should welcome opinions, and we should welcome feedback.
That's what the show's all about.
That's right.
You're on the right show.
So just because I think of a certain way and I view the world with a certain lens doesn't mean that that's what it should be, And what's going to make me, I believe, a better person is incorporating those particular ideas and be respectful of that. Everyone has something different to bring to the table.
And if you're elected mayor, how would you plan to incorporate some of these ideas?
Well, one of the things that I value a lot is freedom of speech. Giving people an opportunity to give their views. We have an administration right now that one of the things that they did when they first took office 4 years ago is not give the community an opportunity to engage with their council people. So in the past, the way the community forum was set up was that you could verbalize concerns that you have, and at the same meeting, have your council person respond to those concerns. And indicate, okay, well, thank you for coming, and this is how we're going to address the issue. Right now, individuals will still have an opportunity to come and speak, but there's no feedback, giving from what they come to speak of. So what I've noticed is that that has really stifled, the voice of individuals to come in and talk.
What do you mean by they're not giving you feedback, or the community feedback to the questions that they might have?
Yeah, so let's say if you you come and you said, hey, I have a pothole, at this street and etc. And I've had this problem and I would like for you to fix it, and I'm bringing it to your attention. Now you, as my council person, can say, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, to address it right there and then. There's a dialogue, between the council person and the individual that's coming in with the problem. Right now, it's a one-way street. You come in and you verbalize whatever you need to verbalize, but you don't get any feedback in return.
I'm sure it's, we wish all the problems in government were just filling potholes, but obviously there's probably a lot more complex issues that need to be addressed. I'm sure
Absolutely. But I'm just using that as an example in terms of, for me, it's important that there's a dialogue, between the constituents and the people who are supposed to be representing them. So that's something that I would like to see come back, because when the community, when we're not feeling that our representative, can have an honest, meaningful dialogue, with us, then we really are not very engaged, right? That lessen our opportunity to be engaged. And what that has done, from what I've heard from constituents, is that, hey, if my representative cannot speak back to me, why even come? Why even verbalize these issues? Why even talk about it?
Have there been some issues that you've seen in particular? Because I've heard in past interviews that there are issues with town hall being a little bit too riled up. So does it have something to do with that?
It all depends on what our definition of riled up is, So I believe in having a robust, honest conversation that's meaningful and that's going to move us forward. I do not tolerate disrespect and not valuing, what other people, has to say. So I know what you're talking about in terms of town hall being, a little bit riled up. Yeah, probably it was, depending on the lens.
I'm sure passion's getting flared, absolutely.
Absolutely, and everybody expressed their passions differently, right? It doesn't mean that those individuals are bad people. It just means that this is who they are. And we have to be really a society that's more accepting. We tend to be very judgmental. And perhaps with me being a nurse and always listening to my clients and what they have to say, and being able to be thoughtful and have empathy, for me, I engage a little bit differently.
And how do you plan on addressing some of these more robust concerns that you're discussing?
Well, with everything that you do, as long as you have ground rules. When you start a meeting, as an administrator, before I start a meeting, I have some ground rules. As a teacher, before I start my class, I would get a pad and I would say, okay, let's set up some ground rules. These are the way we're going to behave. We're going to behave in a professional manner. And I'm going to put what that looks like, and I would like to get your input of what that looks like. And are we in agreement? This is what we're going to do. And once you have established those particular ground rules, it makes things so much easier. And that's how I mean to govern.
Okay. And can we get more in particular about exactly what sort of concerns you wish to address?
Yeah, so part of my platform, this is a very critical election. And I say it's critical because we're coming up for what's called redistrict. We've had in Stratford gerrymandering that has occurred in Stratford. So if you go back and you look at 20 years ago in terms of how the lines of the districts were drawn, that really brought national attention. It brought the attention of the New York Times, to really even write an article, they looked at Stratford and they said, what a joke. You have one district that looks like an octopus. And that's not really very fair to the community.
I thought that gerrymandering is correct me if I'm wrong, is gerrymandering illegal?
Well, it's not supposed to occur, but it does happen, unfortunately. And the purpose of gerrymandering is really to give one party the opportunity for them to always stay in power, which
Correct.
Is not really good for the community. So we're coming up for redistrict again, and my plan is to make it fair lines, draw it back to what it was and make it fair. For everyone, because it doesn't, it breaks my heart when I knock on doors for a 90-year-old to say to me, I used to be able to go down the street and vote, and now I have to go across town and vote, and I don't have transportation. I have no one to get me there. That is a way of also stifling the voice of that person, by making it much more difficult for them to vote. And that's part of it is the problem of the redrawing of the lines. So that's something that's coming up. And it's imperative that we have individuals with the mindset that's going to be in key positions of the council, to make it fair for the community. Because this is not about us. This is not about me and anyone else that's running. It's not about who's going to be able to stay in power. We really need to really look at our community and do what's right, by our community. And that's what I represent, and that's what I stand for.
So when redrawing these lines, how exactly, how do you make the lines more fair and more representative?
There's computer generated applications that you can utilize, to do that. And not look at it that I want you to represent this particular district, so I'm going to draw the lines in a way that push you over there and not here, and and so on and so forth. So I think that's a very objective way, and as a nurse, with the lens that I've functioned, is when we treat our clients, we treat them in a very objective manner, right? You come in, you say, I have these particular type of symptoms, and based on these particular type of symptoms, we would run tests. Again, that's objective, right? And these particular tests that we run will then give us direction in terms of what's going on and the course of treatment. And I think that if we were to have these particular applications in the way we live, that would make things a lot more objective and
So it's almost like
yeah.
taking a bit of like a census almost?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's based on, definitely we have to make it, where it's equal, right, in terms of the population for each particular district. But there are computer generated applications, that can give us that direction as to how to make it much more equal.
What exactly can we expect to see on a computer generated application that you're suggesting?
Well, that's not my area of expertise,
Okay.
And that's why it's very important also as mayor that when you are hiring people, you hire people with a level of expertise, that I don't have, that would really be part of my administration, and for us to be able to have efficiency and effective way of leading, our community.
So if you do it, I mean, we wouldn't want it to be like a psychologically driven
Absolutely
math. No.
not. What I tell folks is, if I have a plumbing issue, I'm not going to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to call a plumber because plumbing is not my area of expertise, So very important, that we utilize the right individuals to provide the right guidance.
I'd like to state at this time we are having live call-ins, so if you'd like to call, the number is there at the bottom of the screen. We'll give it a couple seconds.
Yeah.
Anyone calling in? 3, 2, 1? No. Okay. So what are some other particular stances that you would like to take once, say, you were to become mayor?
Yeah. So we live in a very diverse town. I think about 40% of our population here are minorities. But it's not reflective on the boards and commissions and committees of having community engagement and people from diverse backgrounds being part of those committees and providing some input as to what the needs are, in their community. So that's something that I plan to address, to engaging the community. And as I'm knocking on doors, I am meeting so many people and I'm enjoying it. My dad always said to me, if you're going to do something, it's important that you enjoy what you do. And if you don't enjoy what you do, you should not be doing it. So that's why I decided to become a nurse, because I get up every day and I look forward to going to work. So I am meeting a lot of people of diverse background who would like to be more engaged, who actually said to me they try to be engaged, but they receive roadblocks and they have not been able to fully engage within their community. So I like to be able to welcome those individuals, and I can give you an example. The slate of individuals that are running with me is just amazing. First of all, they are all leaders, in their own right and backgrounds. We have someone who used to be in the Air Force. He now has his cybersecurity company. We have social workers, we have union delegates, actually several union delegates, which I'm one of them. We have a doctor, we have another nurse, we have a financial analyst, small business owners, social workers, etc. So
All right, we have the first call coming in. Hi, welcome to Sound Off. I'm your host, John Blaschke. Do you have a question for the Democratic hopeful for Stratford Mayor, Immaculate Cann?
Well, you just answered one of my questions. I was curious of what party that she's affiliated with, so you answered that one right away. Thank you, John. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Listen, I do have a couple of questions. She did mention that she comes from education, and I was curious on her opinion on critical race theory and gender fluidity.
So, there's a lot of talk, around the critical race theory going on right now. And in town, I've met a lot of constituents who said to me, I want critical race theory out of the school system. And what I've said is, I have not seen the curriculum. And I've actually asked these constituents, have you seen the curriculum? Because as an educator, I teach for Yale University and I teach nursing. One of the things that I teach my students is before coming to some conclusion, have the facts, make informed decisions, not based on opinions, personal opinions and feelings and emotions, based it on the facts. So for me I would like to see what the curriculum is, before I make a decision of whether this is something we should have or not have. I have not seen the curriculum.
That before the election, you look up critical race theory and make a decision so the voters know your opinion on critical race theory. Instead of skirting the issue, I think you should address it immediately.
Yeah, I know what critical race theory is. I just don't think a lot. I just don't think.
Do you
Well,
think it belongs in the school system?
The history of critical race theory is being usually in the past was taught in the master's and doctoral level.
It's Marxist.
So, but in order for me to make an informed decision, I would like to see what that curriculum is, because that's how you base. That's how you base.
I understand that you're telling me that you don't have enough information to make a decision, and my answer to that is you ought to look into it before the election and take a position before the election.
Okay.
Because that would be the only fair thing to do with parents whose kids go to school. That's the first thing. So
are we teaching? Are we teaching that?
Move on to gender fluidity. Okay. That's another thing that's creeping into the school system where there's more than two genders. Let me just ask you point blank. How many genders are there?
Well, as a spiritual person, and coming from my personal spirituality, there's two. There's male and female. But at the same time, I have to be respectful. Absolutely. I have to be respectful of how people identify themselves.
Okay, so if somebody wants to identify as a squirrel, you'll give them a nut?
If that's what makes them who they are.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you would go along with any screwball, with anything that he decides to identify with, and I think that myself is, from where I'm sitting, that's a dangerous position to take.
Okay.
And we're letting the nuts run the asylum.
Okay. I thank you for your feedback, sir.
All right. Well, listen, I'm just trying to give a little information because you know what? The people are watching these issues.
Yes.
And I think if politicians are taking the position of the academic position and not the position of, let's say, the blue-collar worker, because they're not the same, I think you could hurt yourself. Well, listen,
yeah, well, I'm a union delegate, so I'm very much a blue-collar.
Okay, well, you don't sound it, though. But you listen, good luck.
Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting regarding the critical race theory.
Yeah,
I just think that so many of us, until we could really make an informed decision as to what it is and what's being taught in schools, we really have to look to see what's being taught.
Having it being taught in schools, a lot of the concern that people talk about today is that critical race theory, they're not necessarily teaching critical race theory, they're applying it to the classroom.
Right.
And that's the real concern with it. It's like the teaching method of critical race theory. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you.
It does come from a bit more of a oppressor versus oppressed sort of doctrine. So it does have its roots in Marxist theory. So that's why it gets people so inflamed.
Absolutely. And for me is when things are being taught in school, are we teaching appropriate level information for that particular age group? And what should that look like? If it is, I know we have a new superintendent. I would like to sit down with him to really get his feedback as to, what his take is, on that. We can't walk away from the past. Right. We have to really, in order for us to make meaningful changes and for us to evolve as a society and for us to be accepting of differences in cultures, we have to be open. And for me personally, I've taught my kids at a very young age, to always don't look at the glass of half empty, look at it as half full, always look at things in a positive way. And other people can maybe teach their kids, the opposite, of looking at things always in the negativity, but what's really appropriate for that age group and for that, for children, for them to learn.
Yeah, I think it would be a very serious concern if we were teaching children in school that there's an oppressed versus oppressed sort of ideology sort of taking place over their livelihood. It's not really very empowering to children, I believe.
I believe in history. I believe in teaching children the factual information of what occurred in history. And if we just teach the facts, which is, textbooks and so on and so forth that we have, that anytime that you're writing a textbook, when I was doing my doctoral and master's level, anything that I said, I had to back that up, with the facts. And if you're teaching your children the facts, and again, not opinion and not personal biases, then that's how it should be, I believe, teach the facts.
Yeah, the concern for a lot of parents is that they feel that the school is not, it's teaching their kids something that they shouldn't be taught.
That is not facts. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So stick to the facts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you cannot go wrong when you stick to the facts.
So I know he asked you to address the question directly. So is there a plan if you were to become mayor to address situations like this?
Well, I would like to hear, the thing is, for me as an administrator, when I'm making a decision, I like to get the input of my staff, because I may see things one way, may not always be the right way. But if I were to get input from my staff that's going to be directly impacted and affected by the decisions that I make, then we're making then the right decision that's going to benefit everyone, right? So it's very important to really have the input, of the community. And it's also very important to teach the community, because, as I'm going around and knocking on doors, one of the things that I'm really teaching our community is that we are a distressed municipality. And literally, no one knew that we were a distressed municipality.
What exactly does that mean?
So, the Connecticut Department of Economics and Community Development, we have 169 towns, and then they evaluate the towns.
I just like to say we are almost at time. We only have 2 minutes
okay.
left, so I'm sorry. I know
that's
it's probably
okay.
really, really
yeah. So
difficult
we
answer.
look at the poverty level. We're looking at our unemployment, income, population of children graduating from high school, and et cetera. And then, then they grade you. And right now, for the second year in a row, we have been on this terrible list, which has nothing to do with COVID.
So how did we get put on that list?
Well, based on our evaluation of our unemployment, income per capita, poverty level, our students graduating high school and continuing further. So it really is a list of criterias that we are evaluated on.
And you said so how many, in the past 2 years we've been on that list?
Yes, we have been on that list. And I see that this is very surprising for you.
Yeah.
And it's surprising for everyone that I've spoken to.
Is it possibly because of COVID, though? Because,
No.
COVID is...
It has nothing to do with COVID, because we were evaluated based on 2018-19, and then evaluated again based on 2019 and 20, So prior to COVID, we were on this particular list. And we're still on the list. And what that does, it really hurts us as a community, because then we're not going to attract very good businesses, from coming to do business with Stratford.
Well, how can we address that on the local level? What needs to change about that in terms of housing or employment? How does
the way that we do address our economic development and our grand lists. So it is a little bit complex, and I think what I would like to do...
with like the Army tank engine, sort of like the new deal with there?
Well, the Army tank engine, it's going to take a while, for us to really address that, but
is there a plan for it, though?
But
do you plan on going
future
through
plans.
With you plan on going through with the Army tank engine?
Well, I plan to working with our leaders to making sure that we can definitely establish future plans, because that's going to take years for us to clean up,
Thank you.
But we can put frameworks in place, to saying this is what we would like our community to look like, and economically work towards those, interventions to make us more robust and healthy economically, or else the state will take over if we don't get our act together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very complex issue, but we'd love to come back and talk about it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Immaculate.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Nice to meet you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. And I would just like to say thank you again for listening to Sound Off. We'll be here again at the same time next week. And happy birthday, Auntie Di.